Okay, who doesn't love a lightsaber tutorial? This is what I'm going to work with. Very simple shot of the Hot Toys Rey figure from Force Awakens. I've already done a bit of setup work on this, which I'm going to zoom through because I want to keep this video about the lightsaber effect and skip over the other bits. So I've already masked this out, a bit of a quick select, then did a bit of work on the mask there just to clean it up. I took 2 shots, so I've done a double exposure where I had some blue LEDs. You can see that here. There's my thumb holding it. So I've just done that to kind of give the blue glow of the lightsaber on her body. Little bit of a touch up there, and that's really all I'm working with for the extraction of Rey. So then I've dropped that on a screenshot of that crashed Star Destroyer in The Force Awakens. You can see in the background there, and I've just done a little bit of color matching out the box. Rey's a bit too contrasty, so her curves adjustment and a saturation tweak just to blend her in with that background a bit better. And that is pretty much our starting point for the effect here. I've got a grade up the top, which I'll put on at the end. But yeah, that's good enough to get going. So I'm going to create a new folder here. We'll do a couple of things in here, and we'll start with our saber. So new layer, I'll call this saber core. I'm just going to grab all this stuff and drag that into a layer. We'll call that Rey. And let's get going. So same as all my lightsaber tutorials, easiest thing is the pen tool P. Start with that, click, gonna have a curve here. So I'm gonna click, hold and drag until that curve just comes in off the edge. Just gonna do one little click there, and then we can zoom out, go all the way to the top. And we're going to want to join this up here now. I don't know what the heck I've done to the mask up here, but obviously I've lost half of the lightsaber. So we're going to have to kind of make it up a little bit, but that's okay. So we'll go about there. Then tip of the lightsaber, I reckon about there. Click and hold again just to get that tip. And then coming back down the other side, maybe about there. Looks about right. What do you reckon? That'll do. And then we'll come back to the hilt. All the way down the bottom. Should have zoomed out. Click there. And then we can join that up and just put that curve on the edge. And that's about it. Now, I can tighten this mask up a little bit. So we'll get our point adjustments here and just move a couple of these to hug the end of the core. That's it, done. Okay, so drawn our path. I think I may have made that tip a little bit too narrow. So I'm going to go back, path selection. We'll just fatten this up a bit because it's a little bit too narrow. That looks better. Okay, let's zoom out. Not perfect, but it'll do. Come over to paths. There's our work path. I'm going to go right click, fill path. White, 100%. There we go. And then if I click off, we've got our central white core. I'm going to take a backup. I love to have backups of the sabers because usually I stuff things up or want to do other things later. So yeah, it's good. It's good to have a backup. And then this is what we're working with. I'm going to turn off the backup. I'm going to apply a tiny bit of blur. And I use Blur Gallery for this. Pretty much never use Gaussian blur. It's too uniform. So I want just a little bit of blur on the hilt. And then at the end, I'm going to put, say, 5 or 6. Could do it the other way around. Depends on what you're doing with focus. But for my purposes, this is all right. I'm going to take the hilt up to, say, 4. Maybe. Yeah, that'll do. Click OK. Wait for that to apply. And now our core is feathered a bit. Right click, blending options, and now we can do the blue glow. So the way I do this is with drop shadows. You can do it with an outer glow, but for my money, drop shadow is a little bit easier to work with because you can stack them up. So once you add one, you can then just click this button and add more, as you've seen I've done here. So I can click the color palette and sample the blue. Best thing is to sample the blue you're working with. So obviously the blue I've got here on Ray is a little bit more on the aqua side, but that's cool. Other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy out the color value because I want to stick with this hue. So what I don't want to do is be sort of jumping around between more cooler blues and greeny blues. That just enables me to paste that in, and then any adjustments I make to either the lightness or the saturation will stay within that hue. So we'll stick with that for the first one. Now this isn't doing much, probably because it's in light and color. There we go. Now that's way too dark, obviously, but let's get the second one on. So again, come in there, I've pasted that color that I've got on the clipboard. That's on lighten. That one's much, much bigger. You see the size there, 130. I suspect the lighten isn't helping because the background here is light. So that's part of the problem. So a couple of ways to deal with this. You can use some different layer styles, but what I find is if you become overly reliant on the layer styles, it can get you in trouble. It's better to kind of have the colors dialed in as close as you can get them, and then sort of start adding the layer styles for lightsabers. Otherwise, if you're stacking these up, they can start to work against you a little bit. So you can see there like a linear light that looks really, really nice for the sort of bigger glow. A little bit too saturated, so we can just dial that down just to get a hint of the glow. We'll come back up to our first layer, and for this one, let's just try lightening it. So I'm sticking with the main color, but trying not to introduce a blend mode if I can help it. Then I could add a third. Still got that color on the clipboard. Maybe go a bit darker on this one and try a different blend mode. You can just cycle between them till you find something you like. Hard light doesn't look too bad there, contrasts quite nicely. Yeah, so you can really overdo this and just keep adding and adding and adding them. But that's essentially all there is to it. A couple of other things you can try. If you've got a bigger shadow in there, noise can work to just add a bit of, I'll just cancel out, add a bit of noise variation to the glow. So coming in here and just shifting the noise value up will make it fuzzy. Probably need it on there as well. Yeah, so now you can see that's sort of starting to creep in. The only problem with noise on the blending options is it isn't a great quality effect. You can see it's all pixely. So for a lot of pieces, I sort of stay away from it. But if you're going to resize your work, as I'm going to do with this, and make it smaller, that will all go away. So when I downsample this to a smaller image, that pixely effect will go, but it will leave the kind of effect of the noise. So I'm prepared to put up with it because of what will happen when I resize. So another thing you might want to think about is doing an effect on the saber core itself. So for this, I'm going to add a gradient. Not a gradient map, a gradient adjustment layer. So down here in the layers panel, clicking that, and then gradient. What I want to do is have a gradient go from white to the blue. So I've got white down this end. We'll do 100% opacity, and then in here, in the color, I can paste again, and we've got our blue color, and I'm going to take that all the way up near to white. We'll click OK. Actually, let's go back. I want to change the light angle because what I want to do is align this gradient with the direction of the saber from top to bottom. So effectively, I want that blue at the tip and the white nearer the hilt. And then I'm going to clip this, hold Control or Command between the gradient layer and the saber layer, and now it clips it to the saber. So now you can see what it's done. It's made the saber just a little bit less bright along there and kept the hilt nice and white. Now we can see that. I'm going to go back into the layer effect and just tweak the gradient a bit to make that a bit tighter. So I'm going to bring the white up, the stop point for the white, and I'm going to bring the blue down. And then what that should hopefully do is just have the core more white than the end. Doesn't look like that did much. Let's be a bit more aggressive with the blue maybe. Yeah, that's better. So now it's coming down to the bottom, and then we've got more of a white right around the tip. Let's just try really pushing the white up. Yeah, you can see there, it's coming out. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the effect. Now I'm just going to show you a bit of finishing, how to get this piece looking a little bit better, ready to go. So I've already got a grade folder up here. I've already worked on this. So I've got a color lookup in here, adding a bit of vibrance and saturation with this layer. Then another quick curves adjustment here. For this one, I'm just punching a bit of magenta into the midtones just to give it a bit of variation. You've got this beautiful blue off the saber and sort of some of the sandy colors, and then poking a bit of magenta just crosses between those colors with some purples and reds. Lovely effect. And then a bit of dodge and burn just around Ray to bring up some of her details. And that is pretty much it. So with that done, what I then do is I'll then take a copy. So I do a Control A, and then Control Shift C is going to copy all those layers to the clipboard. Then I'll do a new document. Now you could do this in the same document, but I'm going to resize it to finish it. So I do it in a new document, and I keep this document separate, keep all my layers. And this is typically how I work. I don't export the same image for different mediums. So literally, if I'm going to put something high res on my website, it's going to be a different finishing process from, say, an Instagram post. So this is a kind of 4K resolution image. You can see 3840 by 2160. So I'm going to knock this down to 1080. So that's just 50%. So now it's half the size of what we were working with. So immediately, what I was saying about the noise effect, that's kind of gone away. So that looks better already. So first thing I like to do is do some sharpening. So I go to unsharp mask for this under filter sharpen. And then I have my images fairly sharp for the web. So it really helps images punch out on Instagram, Facebook, if they've got a nice amount of sharpening. Same with YouTube thumbnails. If you're working on stuff for YouTube, a good bit of sharpening just gives your thumbnails a bit more punch, brings the details out. Obviously don't go too crazy, but yeah, there you go. Then we'll come into Camera Raw. Let's just fit this on screen. And then in here, because this is a finished piece, I'm going to add a nice little vignette on it just to draw focus to the center. And I'm going to put a little bit of grain on as well. Let's just see how the grain looks at 100%. Yep, that looks okay. And because we've lost a bit of light, I want to put a curves adjustment on and just punch back a little bit around there. Maybe we'll just knock the shadows down a little bit and we're good to go. So there you go, another lightsaber tutorial. Hope you like this one. Just trying to give you some variation, show you different ways you can do these things, how to work with them in different settings. They're definitely more challenging when your backgrounds are lighter. They don't look as good It's actually the reason they made Luke's lightsaber green in Return of the Jedi, because they knew in those early scenes in Tatooine where he'd be fighting on Jabba's sail barge, his lightsaber will be up against the blue sky of Tatooine. And obviously having a blue lightsaber with blue sky wouldn't have worked. So that's why they did it green. Cleverly in films like Force Awakens here, the skies are all kind of dusty and musky, and so the blue would show up well if Rey had indeed had the lightsaber on Jakku, which, if you're a Star Wars nerd and you get angry about these things, you would have pointed out in the comments below this video pretty early on when you saw me making this tutorial. But there we go. Talking of which, if you've got any questions, please leave them below in the comments. I do answer them, so anything you want to know, shoot me a comment below. Let me know what you think. I would love it if you could give me a like on the video. That'd be great. I know everyone on YouTube's pestering you for those, but it really does help. So if you can drag that mouse cursor or your finger, thumb, whatever you've got on the phone, over to that like button and give it a smash, that'd be great. And then lastly, subscribe. I've got a really, really cool video on the channel page here. Subscriber only. So if you subscribe, you'll be able to watch that. There's some good stuff in that. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Head to ToyShooter.com for more tutorials, resources, and help with Photoshop compositing. You can also subscribe to my free newsletter by visiting shoot.toys in your browser or clicking on the link on screen. You can also follow my work on Instagram at instagram.com/shoot.toys. Subscribe to the channel to watch a special subscriber-only video, which you'll find on my channel page after subscribing. Lastly, you'll find links to all the places I've just mentioned in the description for this video below.